A train station that once rivaled the great monuments of Rome was destroyed in order to build this New York City sports arena, Madison Square Garden. Penn Station still exists below the drab concrete and slowly decaying arena, barely able to keep up with the 600,000 passengers that pass through its very narrow platforms. But what used to stand here was the fourth largest building in the world at the time, with its 84 Doric columns modeled after the Athenian Acropolis. It looked very similar to this post office building right here. It encompassed 304 parcels of land of a neighborhood that used to be known as the Tenderloin. It was notorious at the time. Inside the central waiting room that was a block and a half long was filled with sunlight streaming in from its glass and steel vaulted ceilings, modeled after St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican and the Baths of Caracalla in Rome. Originally erected in 1910, costing $114 million, which is about $2.7 billion in today's money, it was a Beaux-Arts masterpiece designed by the architectural firm McKin, Mead & White. And they designed some of the most beautiful buildings in New York City. Right off the bat, its 11 platforms served 1,000 trains each week. By 1935, over 1 billion passengers used this station. This was a crucial connecting point for America's wealthiest city to connect to Long Island, New Jersey, and New England. But as World War II ended and car ownership skyrocketed, the station started hemorrhaging money. It turns out that this behemoth of a building that was 8 acres big was too expensive to maintain. The rail company just simply couldn't keep up. Slowly, the station started decaying, and its once beautiful granite walls started becoming covered in a layer of soot. The once vibrant shops and eateries started closing, and ridership plummeted. In 1962, the air rights were sold for $50 million to the Graham Page Company in order to make way for Madison Square Garden. This caused an uproar with architects and urbanists such as Jane Jacobs, who protested the scheduled demolition of Penn Station. However, the president of Graham Page, in response, said, quote, 50 years from now, when it's time for Madison Square Garden to be torn down, there will be a new group of architects who will protest. Well, there are no known architects today who are protesting the eventual removal of Madison Square Garden. October 28, 1963, demolition started, and one of the greatest train stations to have ever been built was buried underneath an arena. The loss was so devastating that galvanized support for the New York City Landmarks Law of 1965, and in turn prevented the destruction of Grand Central Terminal. The future of Penn Station is still to be determined, but maybe one day it'll return to its former glory. What do you think? Stay curious, my friends.